Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I would like to thank Mr. President for the opportunity of bringing me here to speak in front of all of you. I'm the first speaker, so it is my responsibility to introduce you to the rest of my colleagues. Along with me in the preposition is Mrs. Valverde, and on the other side of the ring are Mrs. Espinosa and Mrs. Lavaca. As Mr. President has stated, the issue that we'll be discussing today here is whether fun is a key ingredient when studying. Well, I am part of the proposition, so I believe it is. First, I would like to talk about one of the greatest minds that history has ever known of. Aristotle needs no introduction. He was, along with Plato, one of the greatest philosophers in the ancient times, and thousands of years after his death, he has influenced law, science, and literature more than we could ever think of. Apart from being a philosopher and a biologist, he was also a teacher. He founded the Lyceum, a small school for philosophers and biologists in Athens about 2,000 years ago. More than 2,000 years ago, sorry. There, he realized that after long hours of teaching and doing exams and talking about ethics, politics, metaphysics, nature, he realized that his students stopped paying attention and began to think about things that didn't have any kind of relationship with the things said in class. So he began going for walks with them. The Lyceum had this very big garden, and they would go there, they would look at nature, they would debate about many things, and these walks are now called the peripatetic walks. Peripatoi comes from person who goes for walks, literally, and his pupils began to be known as peripatoi. Where I want to go with this is that Aristotle, who was a very smart man, already more than 2,000 years ago knew the benefits of having fun when studying. One may argue that a lot of time has gone by, so maybe we are not the same. And to them, I will say, you are right, we are not the same. I definitely not know ancient Greek, and I definitely don't talk about philosophy in class. But there has not been enough time for our brains to evolve or develop even more, so we are basically the same people that they were. Now, I would like to take the debate to our time. I would like to state something that is very clear to all of you as students. Studying is not fun. I know, mind-blowing. You are all surprised by this astonishing information. Sitting in front of a book for 5 hours straight is not the greatest activity in the world. However, that it is not fun shouldn't mean that it shouldn't. It doesn't mean that it should not be fun. That's why I've looked out for some research, and research done by the New Scientist, a very prestigious magazine, shows that making studying fun turns to a lot of benefits that I will not spend a lot of time talking about. My partner Dania will. These benefits include increasement of creativity, resilience, and productivity, among many others, and it even contributes to the correct development of emotional health and social skills. But why does this happen? Well, it's very simple actually. When we have fun, our brain emits a number of endorphins, which are known as the relaxing hormone, and dopamine, that is known as the happiness hormone. The thing that the basis of this theory is that when we have fun, when studying and having fun are related to the brain. So when we study, eventually our brain will emit these hormones without needing to have fun. I don't know if I explain myself properly. It's the same thing that happens when we smell something that we like. For example, lasagna. We are happy to smell lasagna. um, yes, there are a lot of ways to bring this principle to practice. One would be music. You all know the song "Head, Shoulders, and Toes." I still remember it. I haven't heard it for years, which means that, which proves it proves my point. Also, by competitive games, students will study a lot harder in order to beat their colleagues because that's fun. That's the basis of it. However, one could argue that these songs and these games are too childish, that we are already 18, 19, 20 years old, and it would be ridiculous for us to be in class singing songs and playing games. And again, I agree with you, it's ridiculous. If I went to a physics lecture and I saw the teacher talking about the periodic table, like with a song, oxygen, hydrogen, potassium, iodine, it's ridiculous. I would laugh at them. I would laugh. But the thing is that, as I mentioned earlier, this relation that happens in the brain between fun and studying lasts a long time, a very long time, years and decades. So, where I want to go is that if we teach students when they are young kids, infants, in a funny way, they will create this kind of relationship. They will have fun, and when they grow up, when they are adults, when they are 18, 19, 20 years old and they are college, they won't need to sing songs and play games to enjoy studying, as the brain will naturally create these hormones. Again, I'm repeating myself, but I want to make this clear. Lastly, I would like to also explain that this is not only beneficial for academic achievements, it also is beneficial for the rest of life. Until the day we die, we will need to solve problems, we will need to face situations that require a lot of brains. Everybody in this class will need to solve problems. You, and you too, ma'am. So, to sum up, I have stated that one of the greatest minds of our time agreed that fun is fundamental to the studying process. I have talked about the background, the scientific background of this theory, and finally I have given ways to apply this. Lastly, thank you very much for your attention. It's been a pleasure to be here, and I would like to give the word to Maria. No, sorry, to Denise. Thank you.
Thank you for having me as one of your speakers, and thank you, Aymar, for introducing me. I will be presenting the case for the opposition, which believes that fun is not essential for successful learning. Although, as Aymar said, some studies suggest that there might be a connection between fun and proper learning. The two are indeed not necessarily connected, since other factors such as encouragement, praise, support, and a sense of belonging in the classroom can also be the cause of a better learning system. On the other hand, you have never seen a classroom with a very strict teacher which does fun methods. That will be the way that we would prove that fun would be better for learning. But since most of these studies are carried out in classrooms of teachers which are already considered fun, then these studies are not viable in their own way. Now, a central aim of education is not simply the acquisition of knowledge within a specific learning context, but it's rather the ability to transfer that knowledge to situations that we can apply in real-world problems. This transfer of learning is a complex cognitive process. It involves abstracting general principles from specific examples and recognizing the relevance of them in new domains of our expertise. However, this learning experience that prioritizes immediate enjoyment or superficial engagement can inadvertently impede this crucial process. When the focus is primarily on making learning fun, there is a risk of creating what cognitive social scientists call context-bound knowledge. This refers to knowledge that is tightly linked to the context that it has been learned in, which makes it very difficult to retrieve it and apply it in other ways to different settings. Effective transfer requires deep cognitive learning and processing, which involves actively elaborating on new information, connecting it to prior knowledge. The way of doing this is to construct mental models of the information that you have been given in order to be able to understand it and process it for yourself. This process often necessitates cognitive effort, and it's not always perceived as fun in the traditional sense. For instance, I have a very clear example that I'd like to make in regards to teaching basic physics concepts, for example. The fun approach would be in a classroom to do experiments and demonstrate different kinds of phenomena with experiments and hands-on activities, which at first can be really entertaining for the kids and they can take an interest in the subject. But the second that they have to either take an exam or have a deeper understanding of those concepts in order to move on from them and be able to explain the material or have these fundamental principles applied in other contexts, they will not be able to do so since they were only taught to do them in this way in this experiment. However, the deep processing approach guides students through problem-solving exercises, not just one experiment. They will have different types of exercises that they will have to be able to solve themselves using the principles that they have been taught in these scenarios. Even though the scenarios may not be similar, the students should be able to recognize the similarities between them since they have been taught the basics, and what this method tries to teach is to put effort into it and be able to apply them in any context that they can imagine. This is not to say that learning should be devoid of enjoyment. However, it highlights the importance of prioritizing instructional strategies instead of the fun initial enthusiasm that the fun approach may cause. These strategies could be explicitly highlighting key principles and their applicability across different contexts, or providing opportunities for students to practice applying this knowledge in their own way to create their own experiments, not to be given one to just do, or encouraging reflection on the learning process, not necessarily with grades, but when creating their own experiment and seeing that it works correctly, then they can be gratified in a way that they know how it works and they are able to replicate it in other contexts. By emphasizing these strategies, educators can foster learning and not only engage students, but also equip them with transferable knowledge that not only they can teach to their peers, but they can also use for themselves to apply in any kind of situation. They can take these skills necessary for success in an ever-changing, complex world. Now, I leave Dania to close the case for the proposition.
Thank you, Denise, for the introduction. Now I will gladly close the case for the proposition. I propose the notion for the following reasons. Firstly, entertainment education is a fun and powerful way to learn lessons properly through stories and characters in movies, TV shows, or other media. Imagine watching your favorite cartoon or show where the characters face problems such as bullying, health issues, or friendship confrontations. While you're enjoying the story, you're also picking up helpful messages about how to overcome these situations in our daily lives. At the heart of entertainment education are two key features: narrative involvement and character involvement. Narrative involvement refers to how engaged viewers become with the storyline. They feel as if they are part of the story, thus making them more receptive to the underlying educational content. However, character involvement plays a crucial role as well. When viewers identify with characters' journeys, emotionally and cognitively, they are more likely to relate to them and the educational messages being conveyed. Additionally, several successful entertainment education initiatives have demonstrated the effectiveness of this approach. For instance, shows such as Grey's Anatomy portray medical circumstances which educate us in cases of an emergency. Let me come to my second and final argument, which is the successful implementation of active, fun, and technology elements in problems-based learning. A study was conducted in Malaysia to observe whether fun could make students learning more efficient. The investigators focused on a course called Systems Analysis and Design, which consists in creating computer systems. What's more, given that the subject involves a lot of theory, teachers implemented fun activities to the course. The findings revealed that students improved the soft and technical skills by using this method. Soft skills meaning teamwork. One of the students sighed. At first, I really couldn't understand why we needed to do this, but now I realized it really helped me to comprehend. I had tried to read the book, but could not understand it. For this reason, the researchers believe that combining fun with technology helps in successful learning. All in all, the proposition has argued in favor of the motion by explaining how fun is beneficial in the long term, Aristotle and his peripatetic works, how fun in studies improve results, as well as how effective entertainment education is. I urge the House to vote for the proposition, and it is now my pleasure to give the word to my opponent, Maria Lavaca.
Hello everyone, and thank you for having me as one of your speakers today, and thank you, Dania, for introducing me. While fun can be an attractive element in learning, I argue that it should not be considered a key ingredient for educational success. I'll now delve deeper into three critical arguments against prioritizing fun in education. To begin, we think that when entertainment becomes the central focus of education, it can significantly distract students from the real purpose of learning. Learning requires focused attention and cognitive engagement. However, when lessons are overly centered in fun activities, students often find their mental concentration fragmented. Their constant stimulation can disrupt deep processing, leading to shorter attention spans and reduced analytical skills. Moreover, there is a psychological aspect to consider. Students might develop a conditional response where they expect constant entertainment during learning. This shift means that learning becomes dependent on external stimulation rather than forcing instinct motivation. Finally, we must consider the impact on their performance. When gamification takes preference over genuine comprehension, it creates artificial learning environments where the metrics for success become just sideways. In addition, you have to know that learning should be meaningful rather than merely entertaining. Knowledge acquisition is fundamentally a serious intellectual process that requires critical thinking and deep engagement. True understanding involves with complexity and sometimes enduring intellectual discomfort. This depth of comprehension is far more important than surface level enjoyment that this could bring. Overemphasizing entertainment can infantilize the learning process. Students need to cultivate academic discipline. Complex skills emerge from persistent and focused practice, and meaningful learning involves problem solving, critical analysis, and sustained concentration, elements that entertainment-driven approaches just often bypass. Lastly, we must address the rise of condensation inherent in trying to make all learning fun. Reducing education to mere entertainment undermines the dignity of scholarship and suggests that knowledge itself is inherently just uninteresting. This approach implies that students cannot appreciate intellectual challenges on their own. It creates a patronizing educational atmosphere where the true value of knowledge is just diminished. Instead of fostering genuine intellectual curiosity, we risk replacing it with superficial engagement driven by external rewards. The long-term consequences of this approach are really profound. It diminishes the transformative power of education and reduces learning to transactional experiences rather than an exploration of ideas. Students miss out on discovering the inherent beauty of knowledge and fail to cultivate a deep intellectual passion. In conclusion, while fun has its place in education, it should not overshadow the fundamental goals of meaningful learning and intellectual growth. Education's primary purpose is transformation, not mere entertainment. Effective education should rather critical thinking skills and prepare students to navigate complex intellectual landscapes more just than do fun stuff in class. Well, all of this said, because of all of these reasons, I urge you to vote in favor of the opposition. Thank you very much.